Recording.
Resume the Zoom.
I got so used to editing all the videos before I uploaded them. Everyone like fixing their hair and their microphones.
Oh yeah.
I trimmed like
Yeah.
the first couple minutes of a bunch of videos before uploading them.
Nice. Yeah.
Hey,
Welcome
Jen.
everyone. Hello. Hey Jen.
Admit
All right.
all. Everybody come on in.
It's so great. Yeah, to see so many familiar names. I'm seeing folks that have definitely been at least one or maybe more of the other human-centered design sessions for this amazing week. Welcome everyone. Nice to see folks. Wow, we got a good number of folks joining. That's always amazing.
Yeah, there we go.
It seems like throughout the week, like people have gone to more and more sessions, which is great because it's yeah, it's amazing to see that participation. Welcome everyone. How is everyone doing? We are at Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, broadcasting in Orillia, Ontario. That's where I am at anyway. And actually, I believe Adam is just a couple blocks away from me as well in Orillia. If you want, if you're just as we're coming in here, we're waiting for other folks still coming in the room. It's always nice to know where folks are coming from. So if you want to drop your location in the chat, that's always cool. We are recording this session. We want to capture all the great things, all the amazing things that everyone thinks of and contributes. But if you're okay with us recording and you want to turn on your video, that's also always very welcome as well. We've got East Gwillimbury, Barry, Ormadante, Bond, Owen Sound. Nice. Very good. Whippy. All right. It's like it's broadening out. Very cool. Oh, my voice is not audible clearly. Interesting. Thanks for that comment. Anyone else having issues with my audio? All right, so that may be on your end, but that's okay. We'll do our best to do that. And Adam, there was like maybe we want to engage the subtitle function. Is that something we can do as we're going?
Yeah, I can. Here, let me see what this will look like. We have turned on live transcriptions, so I don't know.
All right, well, we'll see how that goes. More folks, Collingwood, that sort of thing. Oh, Serena, you said says no, so I hope that means no, as in it's all good. Actually, let's do that real quick. Quick little tech check-in. If you can give me a reaction, either the green check mark if everything seems good on people's ends, or the red X if there's any issues or challenges so far. And we still are having folks coming into the room.
I did a thumbs up.
Thumbs up, yeah, okay. And green check marks.
Oh, okay. I see. You're using those other yes, no, faster, slower things.
Yeah, it's like I saw actually, I think earlier this week, a student was the one that introduced me to the green check marks. I didn't realize that was an option. And so very good. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Ross McIntyre. I am a faculty at Georgian College. I also do a lot of different work for the Center for Change Making and Social Innovation. Part of that is getting the pleasure of participating in Changemaker in Residency Week. And so this is my fourth session of the week, and we're talking through different parts of the human-centered design thinking process. We don't have time to cover all of them, but that's what we're talking about. And specifically, this session today is on pitching our ideas. How do we pitch our ideas to make them interesting, engaging, and spread all of our amazing work out into the world. So very excited to connect with you all. And thanks again. I do see lots of folks that have been in other sessions, so that's always great too, because we can carry over some of that learning into what we'll do today. I'm going to throw it to Adam to do a little intro, and he'll be our wizard today.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adam, and I am the community animator for the Center for Change Making and Social Innovation. And yes, that is a real job title, and that is a real place. Today, I am here to help the amazing and beautiful, smart, intelligent Ross McIntyre run his session. So I'll be here handling all your tech support and keeping an eye on the chat and trying to keep the mural flowing. So just quickly to touch base and recap how the sessions normally run. So if you have the ability to, I'm going to paste the mural link. I see a bunch of people in there already. So the way the sessions normally go is it's a combination of Zoom and mural. Most of you have a little bit of experience with mural at this point. If not, it is a giant digital whiteboard space where we're going to be participating and engaging today using sticky notes. It's as simple as clicking on the mural link in the chat, get in there, and you have the ability to double click to create a sticky note, and then you write in your sticky note. And the other powerful part about Mural is the ability to zoom in and out. So instead of making things giant to see on your screen, actually just use the zooming functions in and out. And the bottom right hand of the Mural window, you see a little mini map. So zoom in closer and kind of match the scale of all the other sticky notes and conversations that are happening. And one more little tip for you with Mural is if you hold the space bar down on your keyboard, it turns your cursor into a little hand, and you can actually use that to help you move around and drag around the space. So those are kind of the high level tips and tricks for Mural. Again, if you have any tech problems, oh, I see subtitles aren't up, by the way. Yeah, I clicked the button and for some reason it's and it said it was, but it's not. So I'm gonna keep playing around with that. Thank you very much for pointing that out. So other than that, send me a message if you have any issues, and I'm gonna hand it. I think we can do a high five over here, Ross. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
That way, okay.
We did it. Okay,
nice.
guys.
Amazing. Perfect. So yeah, these sessions, especially based around the human-centered design process, they are meant to be highly collaborative. And if you were using any of these tools in a group setting, a group project, or in school, in work, in your life, that would be the way to get the best results. And so I'll just say right off the front, we've been really lucky with all the other sessions, but I hope that folks today are up for, if you want to unmute and share at any point, please do that. Please jump in and interrupt me at any point. I love that. If you would like to share and throw things into the chat, that's always really helpful as well. And of course, we are in Mural, as Adam outlined there too, and that's a great way to contribute. So we want to make sure it's accessible. Part of the human-centered design thinking process is to have as many voices, as many insights, as many people as possible contributing. So that's kind of how we've set it up for this. And so it looks like folks are in the Mural here. And if you want to go over to step 1, if you're not there already, I see some folks have already made their way there, but I'll use this feature in Mural called Summon. That means you'll be able to pull into where I'm seeing. So what you want to do is you're going to, in this box, you're going to put some sort of idea, the best idea ever. It doesn't have to be a new one. You don't have to think of the best idea ever right now. You're just going to think of something that exists or has existed that was just a really good idea. So this can be literally the wheel. This can be pepperoni pizza. It could be whatever you think has been a really great idea, because that's part of the human-centered design thinking process. So if you are in the Mural, I'd encourage you to make your way over there and go through that little process a little bit. And I'm also just going to do a little intro. I know that some folks have been to other sessions, but anyone that's brand new to this session, just a little bit more about the human-centered design thinking process. I want to outline that. But before I do that, what we've been doing throughout CRW and throughout different parts of Georgian College more regularly and in a more meaningful way is a land acknowledgement. And so I want to take a couple minutes just back in the Zoom to talk through that. The official land acknowledgement for Georgian mentions the notion that all campuses are situated on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe people. The Anishinaabe include the Odawa, the Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi nations, and this is collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. However, it's not enough to simply acknowledge that we are on unceded land and that I personally am a settler on unceded land. We need to dig a little bit deeper and do a little bit more work. And I was saying to Adam before everyone came in that today part of that work for me was actually putting together one of my courses, and the topic happened to be the social welfare system in Canada and in relation to Indigenous people and Indigenous communities. It's for a course called Social Welfare and Political Ideologies. If there's any SSW in the house right now, you might be familiar with that course. And it was an interesting experience to be going through, right? Because I found myself faced with the challenge of how do you condense centuries, like at least 4 centuries of colonization into a unit in a way that's meaningful, in a way that conveys the subtlety, the nuanced nature of this social issue that is the unjust treatment of Indigenous people in what we now call Canada for such a long period of time. And obviously pieces that come to mind are the residential school system and many abuses and injustices faced through that. The 60s scoop, where Indigenous children were adopted into other families all throughout North America and taken from their families in what we now know as Canada. And even up to present day, when we think of a topic like missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, this is who are significantly overrepresented when it comes to both missing and murdered women in Canada. And so these are all outcomes of colonization, and they're all a product of oppressive practices and at systemic levels, at government levels, and local levels for centuries. So what do we do about this, right? And there's not one answer. The answer is different for everyone in so many different respects. But I think the important thing that I'm committing to is that regardless of how open-minded and how socially conscious that I feel I may be, that I'm committing to consistently working at answering that question, right? To be an ally for Indigenous communities is an ongoing process of learning and unlearning and relearning different parts of what we do and how we see the world, and to take any privilege that we may have to leverage that to amplify the voices of Indigenous communities. And so I'm committing to that. As I was putting this course together, this class together today, I came across a documentary called Colonization Road. And I'm just going to drop the link in the chat if you want to tuck it somewhere and perhaps revisit it later. It's really well done, and it's kind of a blend of many different voices, and it's that space where there's some lightheartedness connected with this very serious and very big issue, right? And so anyway, dropping that in there in case folks want to revisit that. All right, so thanks for that. Thanks for listening, and thanks for being a part of that land acknowledgement. I'm going to check back into the mural here, and it looks like we have a ton of ideas. We have some Back to the Future hoverboards in mini style. We have, oh, nice. Someone put FaceTime in there as an idea. That's great. Yeah, imagine, how different this whole past year would have been if there wasn't such a thing as video calling, FaceTiming, right?
Sorry,
Automatic.
Ross.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I just sent you a message there. You might have to turn on your own live transcript button.
Oh, okay.
I think I've turned it on.
You.
I've turned it on for myself, but I'm not speaking. So I want to know if you might have to enable it for your own.
Okay, thanks. And sorry, we're going to take a minute, folks, just to fix this tech thing, because we want to make sure from the accessibility point of view that everyone can do that.
Do you see live transcript or CC at the bottom of your Zoom window?
No, I don't even have like the three little dots for the more option, I don't think.
Okay. I wonder if I've turned it on because I'm the host. I'm gonna maybe flip you back to be the host for a sec, and then
sure.
And then see.
And for folks, as we're sorting this out, feel free to please keep working away. And mural, like we said, with anything in this process, the more ideas that we have, the better. And I'm gonna actually challenge you to, so let's see, we have our idea box here, and you can see this light bulb area above the box. So in the light bulb area specifically, while we're sorting this out, if you want to add not only just an idea, that's been a great idea, but now I'm asking for an idea that is really good, but not a lot of people know about it, that more people need to know about it, right? So maybe it's something you've heard about or that you're personally passionate about, or maybe it's even an idea of yours. If you can add a new post-it just in the light bulb section of that idea box, what is an idea that more people need to know about, that is not something that people have heard about too much? Okay. All right, so just checking into Zoom here and seeing if we can. Oh, there we go. Let's see, I think I got it there, Adam. I got the option now. Live transcript. Enabling auto transcription. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be clicking through, which is interesting.
That's what was happening to me too. So I'm not sure maybe if there's an update available. It shows a little CC thing icon next to my name, but it's not displaying anything. So.
It might be, so one last thought, it could be the account we're in. So whomever's account we're in, if we need to go into that account to enable it in their settings. So I don't know if that's on if you're logged in with the account we're in, then maybe that would do it. But
all right, we'll just keep on rolling on here. We'll record it regardless, and we'll just speak clearly, and we'll do our best.
Totally, yeah. Thanks again, everyone, for your patience. We've been fingers crossed, we've been pretty lucky to have fairly minimal tech issues throughout this week, and we're going to keep that rolling. All right, so I asked a bit of a follow-up question. Let's see about these ideas that need to be shared more. Ideas that are out there maybe, or maybe it's an idea of yours, but it's not really out there. Green rooftops with water absorbent plants, amazing. Powered Iron Man suit, also amazing, right? If anyone has been in other sessions, you might recall that there's no wrong ideas, there's no wrong input. The whole point of the human-centered design thinking process is to gather as much as we can, because the more we have, the better outcomes that we'll get. Robot guide dog, that sounds incredible. Yeah, wireless charging, that needs to be perfected for sure. Oh, bionic eyes, that would be incredible. I would save so much on glasses. That would be great. Self-exchange programs. I see that note. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but if someone wants to add a bit more or elaborate, or even in the Zoom chat, that's totally fine. And I also would want to open that question up to folks that if you're not in Mural, or maybe not, don't have the same comfort level with it. I'd love to be able to put that out there and say, what is a great idea that hasn't been shared yet, right? What's a great idea that needs to be shared more, or something that we could do more? All right. So, all right, as we are in the Mural, I see if there's some folks adding into the chat there. That's incredible. Okay, so we're back in the Mural. Lots of stuff, lots of great stuff. So keep thinking on that. I am going to just draw your attention really quickly to this familiar chart. If you've been in any of the other sessions with me, you'll recognize this chart right here, and I'll bring everyone over to it just so you can see. This is the human-centered design thinking process. So you'll recall maybe, or if you're new to this, the place we start is from a place of empathy. We empathize with a problem, with something that we're trying to solve or work on, or a project, whatever it may be. We build out our ability to empathize with it. And that involves some deep diving into not just seeing a problem, but feeling it and being in the shoes of people or the problem itself. Then we spend some time defining that problem. And this isn't as simple as just going to Google and quickly looking up what something might mean. This is about really defining something, but then questioning it, redefining it, adding to that definition, like asking ourselves, how might we actually, do this, accomplish this solution, or help solve a problem, diving quite deeply into that definition stage. And then the third step here is ideate, which is a fancy word for brainstorming or generating a bunch of ideas. And that's what I've been talking about a little bit. The more we get on the table, the better it is, the more we have to work with. And so these three stages are what we covered Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week. And then, of course, once we get to that point, we can start testing, prototyping, and testing those ideas. Now, as we're looking at this little map of these 5 different steps, it can be kind of misleading. This is not a linear step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sort of thing. The whole process is meant to have all these feedback loops built into it, right? So maybe we get to the ideate stage and then we go back to the define stage because we missed something, or we go all the way back to the empathy stage because we need to learn more about that. We need to get more data, more information about what that looks like. And that'll help us generate new ideas, prototype them, and test them out. And this isn't just for products, by the way. This is obviously an approach that can be used for services too, right? For how we interact with other people through different professions, through different careers. That's the whole goal of human-centered design thinking process. This is a tool, and it can be used with a toolbox kind of with a bunch of different tools inside it. And you can take that and use it in so many different settings. We've also talked a lot about in previous sessions that this toolbox can be used on an individual level. And so that might be a problem you're experiencing or something that you're dealing with. So for example, we've talked about using this for like your job search or potentially finding a career that you really enjoy. This can be viewed on a community level, right? So how can we use human-centered design thinking to solve kind of more localized community-based problems? And that can be anything from food insecurity to housing insecurity, whatever it may be in a specific community. And then, of course, we've also talked about this on a big global level with a bunch of messy problems and challenges that come with things like poverty throughout the globe, natural disasters, inequality, these big topics, right? So this will help us break it down, take that time, and build in a focus on depth of information. And that's our whole goal with a lot of this work. All right, so all that being said, I'm just gonna hop back into the Zoom here for a second. Yeah, so a couple great additions here in the chat here. Oh, I see. So going on an exchange, so student exchange to be able to experience different parts of the world. So thanks for that. I'm glad we were able to add to that comment. Third world countries waiting for latest technology. Yeah, that's a problem that could be solved, I'm sure, right? And so how do we do that? Okay, amazing. And so the idea that we are going to be kind of working with now is like we've put all this work into this. Let's say like fast forward a bit. Let's say that we've spent hours or maybe even days or maybe even weeks in a scenario where we're using human-centered design thinking to solve a particular problem. Let's say that we've gone through that process and that we fast forwarded to the point where we now have what we think is a pretty great idea. We've really thought it out. It's rooted in empathy. We've defined it. We've generated so many different pieces of the idea. That idea has no value or no ability to help or impact others until we share that idea, until we can get it out into the world. And so that's where today's session on the pitch, like actually sharing that story, doing that storytelling piece, that's where that really comes into play. So that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to share a video through the Zoom window as well. This format that we'll talk a little bit about later as well is called Petcha-Kucha. It is 20 slides, 20 seconds for each slide, and largely visually based. Usually it's a very visual presentation. And you might wonder, wow, this format sounds very different than maybe different class presentations that you've either had to give or attended. It feels very different than maybe even things like TED Talks and whatnot. It's a different format. But I want to share this video because I think it'll give some insight on how potentially meaningful that this approach can be. Not only that, I happen to find a Petcha-Kucha format that is talking about our very topic. It's talking about ideas and it's talking about embracing failure and moving beyond it. So I couldn't resist, and I wanted to share it with folks today. So I am going to turn my video off so that the video that I'm sharing works better. And all right, here we go. And it would be great if someone could just confirm once I start this up, if someone could just confirm in the chat that I am in fact sharing my sound as well, that would be wonderful. Okay, here we go. Enjoy.
As Josh said, I'm Kate Garmy. I'm the Director of Marketing for TableXI. And over the years, I've had a lot of opportunities to explore and execute some really terrible ideas. But I am not here with a parole officer, so they're not that terrible. But I think if I was, it would make this presentation, as Josh says, a lot easier because I'd have one story. I think it's because I think about my life a lot like a lab. I just test ideas and I tinker and I play around until I find something that I think is going to work. But often what I think is going to happen and what actually happens are just totally different things. And I started thinking about it and I thought, well, maybe we should go back to the beginning. I think there's two types of mistakes that people make, often a failure to try or trying and failing. And I try a lot of things and I fail a lot. But when I do it with gusto. So I don't make a lot of type 1 errors, you might say, but I make a ton of type 2 errors. And I actually took that scientific lens and I mapped them on a very scientific map, and I have this. My very scientific analysis of some of my favorite mistakes mapped against risk and optimism. You'll see they range from a scale of Wonder Woman to international disaster, obviously. And we'll talk about those in just a second. But I think to understand, you have to really go back to the beginning. This is me as Super Grover. As a kid, I was very obsessed with superheroes. And I had this idea that I was capable of just massive feats of physical prowess. I thought I could do anything. And I think that a lot of kids have that mentality, and it winds up in two things. Like you either rescue mankind or get a ton of stitches. And I'm in the latter camp. Eventually Wonder Woman evolved into Blind Wonder Woman, where I'd climb up the tallest thing I could find and just jump off of it with my eyes closed, which is like, sounds like such a good idea. But when you do it, you land on a baseboard heater. In college, I pushed that idea even further, and I was like, oh, Boston Marathon, I'm in. I didn't train for it, I just jumped in. And then I thought, you know what I should do before this is go to AC/DC, because AC/DC is just like carbo loading. But it's not, and I got really sick. And then later I traveled and I started to test these hypotheses overseas. I did a bunch of traveling, and I was in Thailand, and I'd seen Broke Down Palace, and so I had this idea that all prisoners are just Claridanes who are just like totally misunderstood and trapped and probably need friends. So I decided to go out and make a pen pal. I took a local bus all the way out into the suburbs of Bangkok, where I brought a book and a watermelon to go meet a Westerner that I just found off of the list. And I gave him my book, and inside I'd written my name and my email address and my parents' mailing address in case he ever wanted to write or visit. And I never heard from him. So in grad school, fast forward, I got interested in the idea of turning these ideas into ways I could make money, and I got interested in entrepreneurship, and I went and I saw a bunch of guys at Kellogg who couldn't get dates for Valentine's Day, and I'm like, I'm from Maine, I can fix this problem. I know lobstermen. So I decided to do a little thing I call Lobsters for Lovers. I sent an email out to the entire law school, business school, and journalism school with this great poem. Violets are blue, lobsters are too, but lobsters turn red when you cook them, and they taste better too. Buy 2 twin lobsters from me for Valentine's Day. And I got so many orders. I made like 350 orders overnight. And then the one thing I didn't realize is that I was gonna get 700 lobsters delivered to me live, crawling around. And while Kellogg embraces entrepreneurship, they're not so cool about transacting crustaceans on their premises. So they were in the trunk of my car. And I was trying to give them out in a snowstorm. But eventually what happened was I wound up, with a little bit of jazz hands, I wound up at Table XI, which is a place that embraces problem solving and thinking through ideas, but they do it in a much more structured environment with a little bit more researched hypotheses, but still, it was a good place for me to land. On my first day, though, I realized I was not programmed like the rest. I was an extrovert, and I was working with all these introverts, and I just thought if these guys had a little bit more exposure to some really exciting, good ideas, they would be so excited and want to high-five me all the time. And so I started planning events. And this is what happens when you invite your senior developer to come to karaoke night for a holiday party. I know, it sounds like so much fun, and it isn't, I don't think. So I also would recommend against antlers. That didn't work either. So John still doesn't really talk to me. So anyway, the important part here is that while I keep testing, I have not lost my enthusiasm for these ideas. This is me last month in Chamonix. I decided I was going to go paragliding. So I went to the top of the mountain. That's my very excited, and by that I mean smoking a cigarette and couldn't care less guide behind me. And together we were going to jump off and fly, which was super awesome. But when he asked me, do you want to experience the G-force? I was like, is that what all the tourists do? Sure, let's do it. What that is a death spiral to the ground, and eventually you start going over, and you're looking at the ground, and I was like, oh my God, if I don't die, my mother is going to kill me. Like, I am gonna die. But I didn't die, I didn't get stitches, and I didn't even have a Wonder Woman blindfold. And I think the point here is that as many bad mistakes and bad ideas as I've had, they've really informed and brought me to the place I am today. So I don't really look at them with regret. I look at them as a way to meet new people and have really good stories to tell. And so if I'm going to revisit this idea of my bad ideas mapped over time, obviously, I think it's Malcolm Gladwell says you have to put 10,000 hours in to be an expert at anything. I think I'm like only 2,000 away from being like an expert in really bad ideas, which will end in obviously a couple of things, more stitches perhaps, but the eventual ability to fly. I mean, obviously. So thanks for listening to some of my bad ideas. I have so many more, as Josh mentioned. I'd be happy to share them after this and hear some of yours, so come find me and maybe we can make them happen.
Okay, so hopefully you can maybe kind of see why for that video I couldn't resist. It's really right on point with the topic of all the stuff we've been talking about with human-centered design thinking. Not only was the speaker talking about failure and failing for thousands of times at different things, but also just embracing it with this lightheartedness that helped project and propel them towards their next idea, their next thing. And to zoom out of the content of that presentation, it was delivered in the Petcha-Kucha format. And so you'll notice just a lot of pictures as little prompts for the person who's telling their different stories, a lot of different, very human stories that could be shared in that way, and through those pictures. And of course, that's a really great fit with human-centered design thinking. By no means, this is not the only way you should be or need to pitch your story. The idea of like this 20-second, 20-slide format. But yeah, think of how different that is and how the feel of that is so different than maybe what you may have seen on Shark Tank or Dragon's Den or something like that, right? This is a lightness to it. There's not a pressure cooker situation where you're looking to win over someone in a significant way. You're just sharing a story that you've become an expert in, right? The speaker in that video was the expert in her own life and her own lived experience. And so she could share that in a very professional and incredible way. If we look at going through this human-centered design process through empathy, define, ideate, prototype, test, by the time you've gone through that process and done it in an in-depth way, you will also be the expert on whatever it is you happen to be working on, right? It may not feel like it at times, or you're second guessing or questioning things, but ultimately you're the expert in whatever that process is for you. So I'm really curious to take a look back in the mural just to see. We did have some more ideas kind of come into that top section. That's really excellent. And so let's see, what would be helpful? I think like, Adam, if you don't mind labeling the 3 different sections that we'll use later on. The first one will be powered Iron Man suit. The second one will be green rooftops. And the third one is going to be, let's see, self-exchange, like student exchange programs, like across the globe. So just a little heads up there. Thanks, Adam, obviously, for the support. I'm very lucky to be doing this alongside Adam. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is you'll notice if you've been in other sessions too, I like to do some sort of activity, something interactive that will help demonstrate the idea that we're talking about. Today, we're talking about the pitch, sharing the narrative, sharing the story that you have with other folks. So I don't need a specific volunteer right now, but you'll have the opportunity to volunteer if you do want to test this out. But this little activity is called Expert in Their Field. And so I'm going to be an expert in this scenario. But what I'm going to ask for folks to do right now, just in the chat in Zoom, could we just drop a bunch of random words and things in there, like different nouns? Can you just like, whatever comes to mind, first thing, maybe it's something nearby or whatever pops into your mind, just a bunch of different things, places, things, people, whatever you want, just dump it into the chat there. And this is going to help set up the stage for this activity. More random, the better. Stapler, okay, we're water bottle, okay, we're getting down there. Triangle, stapler, water. I think we've got to go even more random. Okay, interesting. Vertebrae, slippers, flower, apple. Okay, book. Lots of, yeah, let's see. Saber, a guided counter. That's amazing. Cool. That's great. Chewing gum. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I think I got it. So thank you. So this activity, expert in their field, I'm going to be the expert, and I'm going to be presenting to you this new breakthrough based on these suggestions. It's going to be a stapler, but chewing gum are combined. And so it's actually a stapler that can work to like staple out chewing gum. And so I'm the expert in this. We've just invented it. It's a brand new thing. And everyone else in the room right now, you are all attending a press conference that I'm giving. I'm giving a release on this stapler chewing gum hybrid model. It's called the Staple Chewer 5000, and it's going to be really incredible. And so everyone in the room now is in the press conference, and I'm going to be taking questions from folks. And so if you want to unmute and ask me a question about this new invention, this new product, by all means, or if you want to drop a question into the chat, you can do that way too. And so we'll do this little activity for a couple minutes, and then I'll talk about why we're doing it afterwards. So, all right, welcome everyone to the press conference. My name is Ross. I am the CEO of Staple-Chew 5000. It's a brand new product. It's going to be very exciting, and it's coming out in stores near you next month. It allows you to both staple and chew gum at the same time. So it's a really revolutionary breakthrough. So that's a little intro. I'm open to any questions. Anyone have any questions on this product, on this brand new breakthrough that I can answer at this point? Open to any questions of folks? Why was this discovered? Thanks, Kamal. It's a great question. Yes, so we discovered this because, of course, most people when they're stapling are usually thinking about chewing gum. And then most people when they're chewing gum are usually thinking about, oh boy, I wish I was stapling. And so I just tried my best to combine these two, and I think we've done it with the Staple-Chew 5000. Is it safe for children to use? Great question, Jen. No, it's we haven't yet developed a safe Staple-Chew 5000 for children. So it comes with a warning label. We suggest you keep it on the highest shelf in your house. We do not like children to have this. It will lead to a disaster. How did we create the name? Well, Staple-Chew 5000, we brainstormed. Actually, we ran it through the human-centered design thinking process, and we came up with a bunch of different names. And it turns out that combining part of each word and throwing a big number on the end made it seem very appealing and very exciting. So that's where we got the Staple-Chew 5000 from. Yes, thank you. Yeah. How do you think your new product is going to be compatible than others? So how is our new product going to be more compatible perhaps than others? Well, it's really it's an outlier in its field. It's basically the first combination of stapling and gum chewing that the world has ever seen, right? So how are we actually going to be able to do that? Well, it's revolutionary. So I think that gives us a huge competitive advantage. Target demographic, great question. Target demographic was initially, we thought, librarians, because they're usually using staplers quite a bit. But then we had to work around the no gum in schools rule that's often still part of every school. And so we really had to work through that. And yeah, we were able to do that. Any other question? Maybe one more question from the audience before I wrap this press conference up. Any other questions? How do you plan to get this to market? Well, we're happy to say it's all ready to go to market. I got a used minivan, and we got 40,000 of them in the back of it, just packed in there. So I'm ready to drive it around. So I guess just give me a call. And yeah, someone asked, will it work with your existing gum stapler setup? If you do in fact have an existing gum stapler setup, it's proprietary information, and so I'll be in contact. Our lawyers will be in contact, I think, with you. So, all right, that's it. I see another one. Oh, dangers. Yes, there are some dangers for anyone under 18 that's using this product, because it's only designed for adult use, because it's very dangerous as well. All right, press conference over. So thanks very much. That's a fun one. I'm so glad. Thank you everyone for putting some questions into the chat there and for participating in that. I didn't do that just to have fun or to play a little game. I did that because what we just did there is actually a great way to practice thinking on your feet and practice telling a story, crafting a story, and sharing it in a very quick, rapid way. You almost don't even have time to think about what you're saying, as I think I maybe demonstrated with some of my answers. But I'd encourage you, even if we're not going to dive in and do it right now, although that's an option if anyone would like to try to be the expert in their field at something. But if you're not comfortable with that, that's fine. But I'd ask you to tuck away that activity, especially because, as many of us know, presenting is often one of the biggest fears that people have, right? There's nerves and anxiousness associated with it. And so perhaps that's an activity you will do in a small group with some friends. Do it over Zoom one night with friends or family. Like, that's easy to do as well. And just to try to break down those obstacles that may be there sometimes when it comes to presenting. So yeah, thanks again. That is always a lot of fun, and I appreciated how quickly the group immediately got what was going on and started throwing me some tough questions there in the room there. So okay, amazing. Oh my goodness, look, if folks are I just jumped back into the mural, but it looks like Adam, our digital wizard, actually made the visual complement to the Staple-Chew 5000, and there it is in the pitch section of our mural. So check it out, coming your way soon. Yeah. All right, so just below that picture, there are some kind of rules, some general rules for presenting a pitch. And like reading through this list, maybe we can think back to that presentation we just saw on the idea of ideas and failing at them, and kind of get a sense of maybe this speaker was able to create a bit of a sense of wonder, right? It was really interesting kind of from early on, and you were kind of wondering where it was going to go. So you're in some real suspense. So think of parts of that story that we watched in the video, especially about like the skydiving one and some of the other ones that involved an element of danger or some sort of unknown, right? Like that's building suspense into the pitch. Craft towards the ending. So that's something that, we often forget about. The ending is the big thing, the big takeaway. And in that example that we watched earlier on, the ending was about not only embracing failures of her past, but it was also about being okay with knowing that she's going to keep failing, right? She invited others to talk to her afterwards. Let's talk about other ways we failed, that sort of thing. Seeing the world as it looks to them and demonstrate. So knowing who you're pitching to, who you're presenting to, that is a part of it, I think, right? You want to have a sense of what that'll be and try to meet them where they are in terms of whoever you're talking to. I will say that this step in particular can be super challenging in this virtual world that we're still in, right? Because even in a session like this, I recognize a few names and familiar names and students, but it's hard to connect. This is very different, obviously, right? Than if you're presenting to a group of people that maybe you work with for a while, or that you're in school with, or that you're working on projects with, right? So in that scenario, let's say you've worked somewhere for 5 years and you're doing a big pitch or presentation on something. That's an opportunity to really use what you know about the folks that you've worked with to incorporate that into your presentation in different and unique ways, right? You want to inspire new thoughts and new views. So I think the big one in that example video that we watched was that thought of failing is not only just okay, but we can embrace it. It's good. It's helpful for everything that comes later on in life. Being meaningful, genuine, and honest. That is very hard to do, especially when those nerves do come in and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's important to put out there. I think, and I had dropped this like the meme of Obama here doing the mic drop that was famous a number of years ago for doing that move. I think that's one thing that we can think back to some of his speeches. There is this undertone of meaningful, genuine honesty in many of what speeches that he would give. Yeah, don't tell them what you're going to tell them. That's a little confusing, right? That's a bit of a yeah, like a one to unpack. The idea is to say that you want the strongest presentation, the strongest pitch is going to put the audience in a way, in a spot where they are doing your work for you. They're connecting the dots between whatever you're presenting and where you're going with it. And so I guess, let's say again, we've come up with a really great idea through the human-centered design thinking process. We want to share it with other folks. It's very different to come out and say, hi, everyone, we've invented a brand new community garden mechanism that will allow us to grow more food, versus like talking about the meaning. Why does that matter? Why do community gardens matter? This sort of thing. And then near the end is when you tie it together and say, and by the way, here's this incredible solution. Because if they hadn't, they probably will have figured it out already. And that's so much more powerful. So, all right, just keeping an eye on the time. I think we're doing okay. Awesome. Thanks so much, Adam, as put some labels into the step 3 that we are at now in Mural here. And this is called a 3-part pitch builder. And I'm going to do the summon thing so folks can come to this part of Mural. And we have some ideas here. And the first one is at that very individual level. I'm assuming the Iron Man suit is going to be just for one individual to wear at a time, but maybe not. Maybe we want to change that around. And the middle one is kind of at that community level. We have a great idea to build out more green rooftops so they could grow more food and whatnot on existing space. And then lastly, a bigger kind of, by default, a bit of a global idea, but also that involves individuals, like student exchange, but all throughout different parts of the globe. And as students, what would that look like if you could have an easier more accessible way to do different exchanges in all these different places. And so the find, frame, shift template that we're kind of using here, this again, like we're fast forwarding it a bit, right? So at this point, we'd assumed that we'd already found something out. We'd have found out that green rooftops are a good idea, for example, in the middle one here. We'd also have figured out maybe how might we, asking that question back from the define stage, how might we make them even better? How might we make them energy efficient? How might we make them safe and really great in terms of food production? And then lastly is the shift, is the section that I'm most interested in hearing from folks about today. What did you learn? What were aha moments? What should now happen? What are the next steps? Why does this even matter, right? So that shift section on the last one, that's largely where we'll be working. Let's assume that we have our ideas already. And just a reminder too, in Mural, you can double click pretty much anywhere and it'll add a post-it note. But what I'd like folks to do is, whether you want to work on the Iron Man suit idea, whether you want to work on the green rooftops in the community idea, that's fine. Or whether you want to work on this like big global efficient student exchange program that we're starting up. And so I'd suggest that you work largely in the shift box. I think that's probably a good spot to answer some of the questions that are in there, right? So in terms of that, just as an example, in terms of green rooftops, or sorry, let's go to the Iron Man suit because I use green rooftops already. So what did you learn? What was an aha moment? So maybe for the Iron Man suit, a hypothetical example of an aha moment would be that that certain people with physical limitations would actually benefit incredibly from an Iron Man suit. That was maybe an aha moment where it was like, well, this is another great reason to develop this, right? And why does it matter, right? So the why behind our idea, that's something we really want to consider and think through. Okay, so I think hopefully that's clear for folks that are in the mural. I see some cursors zooming around in there. I encourage everyone to add to this. This is human-centered design thinking process is meant to be collaborative. It's meant to always have these different voices, and the more the better. There's no wrong answer sort of thing, right? So I encourage folks to work in the mural. And while folks are doing that, I also want to keep the similar conversations going in the Zoom section as well, right? Because I know some folks may be more familiar with or more comfortable.
Why does every food need a theme name? Baby boy wieners? Why even write that?
Oh, what's that? Sorry, Ed? Oh, I don't know if that was that might have been an unintentional mute. That's okay. All right, amazing. So yeah, the idea of coming up with. Oh, hi, yeah.
So where is the mural link in the chat? I cannot find it out.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you. Okay, well, Adam's going to drop that in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Okay, so if folks are still joining the mural, thanks for jumping in to ask that. That's definitely, we want as many folks to be able to be in there as possible. So yeah, consider what you can add in these different spaces. To especially in that last column, if we're talking about some big global student exchange program, what would the shift column look like? What would aha moments be with that? What should happen now? Because I think really that's kind of what it boils down to, right? If we're thinking about, again, hours, days, weeks put into this work, we really need to have a great sense of what our next steps will be, right? And so, yes, so it looks like, yes, oh, sorry, yeah, folks are on step 3 in the outline too. If folks are not sure where we're at in the mural, in case you are just joining in, I'll use the summon feature, but you can see in each of these 3 templates up at the top here, that there is, one's called Iron Man suit, one's called green rooftops, and one's called student exchange. Those are the 3 ideas we're going to kind of be working on. I'm already seeing other things, people starting to add stuff in, which is incredible. And yeah, it's really great. So while we're doing that, just in the Zoom, I'm going to put this in question form. So let's look at this. One we haven't talked about yet is this big idea of a global student exchange. Let's say that we've spent a bunch of time over, like as a group, let's say we spent a bunch of time over the past couple of weeks really refining this idea. And we now have not only a great plan for how this could work, and to get a ton of people, a ton of different students from across the world being able to do really seamless student exchanges with with pretty much any other country they want to go. So if we have this incredible opportunity, I'm just going to put this into the chat so that we can have a version of it in there. Just 1 second. What needs to happen next? That is the main. That's the main question that we're asking, right? So I want folks to weigh in the Zoom chat as well, if that's more comfortable or easier for folks. If we have an incredible opportunity that we develop for student exchanges across the globe, literally, like, picture a scenario where a student could, from any school in the world, could literally set up an exchange with another one. What needs to happen next to make this work? What's the next thing? Yeah, sorry, yes, just to clarify, thanks for that question. Yeah, like switching places. So student exchanges just meaning sometimes there's an opportunity for a student to go study overseas for a year, and then perhaps another student will be able to come to wherever they're studying, just to see different places, see different institutions, that sort of thing. Yeah, and so great. Yeah, thanks for adding that. Like, definitely it would be beneficial, especially learning the education system, seeing what those differences are. So that's great. So we know that we can incorporate into our pitch that there's a ton of different benefits for that student. We can prove, I'm guessing we can prove that that there are a long list of benefits for the student. And yeah, another great point, also the culture in a different country, to be able to experience that broader perspective, to have that different, to add to their own lived experience in different ways of a new culture and of a different setting. Absolutely. So another huge benefit. So let's see, awareness and application available to apply. Yes, good one. Yeah. So Uzma says awareness. So how are we going to let people know about this program? I'd love for folks to be able to build off of other comments of other folks too. So maybe we need to do some marketing or something like that. Is there some creative way we could maybe market this to get the awareness out there? We definitely would need some sort of application. Is there a creative way we could do that applications process? Are we going to mail out forms to fill out, or perhaps it's using this internet thing that we keep hearing a lot about? Who knows, right? There's always these options. Learning the cultures and what is surrounding them, things to do, and time zones. Yeah, to have the different. I think I love how you're building off of the other comment about culture in different country, but just the surroundings in general, right? Depending on folks' programs, if there are any ECs in the room, for example, we'll know there's this very strong connection between how learning happens and the environment in which it happens. And so that applies to everyone. That's not just for people as they're growing up, that applies to everyone at all times. That's my belief, I think. And so yeah, there's a potential benefit there. So what else needs to happen to make this work? Okay, Uzma's got us posting on social media. We're going to do some social media awareness of this program. That's incredible. I love these next step parts because this helps us build out our story. Because usually in a setting like this, we're sharing a story, but there's a call to action built into it, right? And so even in that example that we watched earlier, it might just, oh, that's okay. Uzma says, sorry for the cav that's okay. I thought you were just super excited and were yelling about posts on social media. That is great. That's fine. Took it as enthusiasm. But yeah, when we're looking at what is the call to action that we want to convey in a pitch, in a story. And so when we look back to that video that we watched as an example, it might just seem like, oh, this speaker is just sharing some of her own failures and doing it in kind of a comical way. And that's really great. And that was kind of nice to hear. But very subtly, in this very like clever way, her call to action at the end was to say that, here's all of my failures. I've embraced them and I'm going to keep making mistakes. I'm going to keep failing forward. You should also do that. You're also invited to do that because it's actually okay. It builds who we are. It builds our experience. So even in that one, there's this call to action. So in this case, with a big, efficient global student exchange program, our call to action might be for people, to sign up and register, like someone mentioned, or it might be for funding. We want to find some people to fund this or that want to get on board with it. So I'm just going to take a little peek back into the mural here and see how it's coming along. Oh, wow, so much stuff. Great. This is incredible. Really great stuff. I'm just gonna see if there's any. So I'm on the Iron Man suit one. It's great. If folks ask how your day was later on today, you can say, "Oh yeah, it was good. I just worked on developing an Iron Man suit. No big deal. It's it's coming along." Yeah. So how might we enable people to lift heavy objects using the Iron Man suit? That's one of the framing questions for sure. In need of a better power. So maybe at this point, we're pitching or telling our story to someone because we need a partner, someone to help us solve the problem of power source or battery life. Maybe an AI is needed to drive or run certain processes. That's a great insight, right? So maybe like at any point, even like the rest of the human-centered design process, this pitch section, the idea of sharing our story, that really can happen at any point, just based on your needs and where you're at with the process, right? So just in some of those quick examples, I could see perhaps you're doing a pitch to a really renowned or really popular AI company. And that's why you're coming to them, sharing this story, and that's your audience for it, because you're looking for them to help you with that piece of solving the puzzle. And that's it too. I guess that's another great point to mention, that it's pretty rare for the story section, the pitch section, like it never just stops, it never ends, right? Because whatever you're working on, whether it be on that personal or community or big global level, it's going to continue to evolve, and so will the story that's attached to it. Oh, Kelsey has a great point on the student exchange thing that I just noticed here too. Like, yeah, maybe it's a student-led thing where you're actually finding your own partner, someone to partner with across the world, and you're both working on out how that exchange will work. Like that immediately adds a ton of a whole new level of connection to that project. So I love that too. Yeah, there's just so much. Again, I as we're wrapping up here, as we're getting close to the end, excuse me, I do want to just say, like, thank you so much, everyone, for all the engagement that you've had in this session and any other sessions I've done this week. This process doesn't work, and therefore these sessions don't work without that type of engagement. And so for the folks in Zoom, for the folks that have volunteered for little activities, that's incredible. For the folks that are getting to be mural experts and adding stuff to really fill out all of these pieces in the mural form, it's it's really amazing. So I just want to say thank you for that. And I know myself and everyone else that's involved in the week is incredibly grateful for that. And hopefully you've gotten something out of that too. Speaking of which, just in our last minute, I would love, just as a quick little poll in the Zoom chat, I'm curious if there's something from today's session that you'll be able to take away with you. Like, is there something that you'll be able to take and apply to your school, to your personal life, to your work? And so on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being, no, I don't think so, nothing came to mind, can't really stood out, or 5 be like, yes, definitely there's something that I want to start immediately applying, and then everywhere in between. Just on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm curious is there something that you could take from today's session and hopefully bring into other parts of your life? So yeah, just drop that into the chat in Zoom. That would be helpful. Amazing, that's great. I think folks are just being nice with all those 5s. That's wonderful, though. It's great to see. And whenever I do this too, I always want to mention, if you're not typing in there and you're just kind of saying, you know what, this was kind of a 1 for me, that's okay too. I hope that that there is still a little something or other that might be helpful down the road. Yeah, the YouTube and the mural help give it context. That's great to know. Yeah, really good. And so yeah, tying it all up back to that presentation format, that's the last piece I'll mention, and I'll dive into the mural for that. Just at the very bottom of step 4, this is kind of I think the whole point of this pitch thing. And again, remember, you don't have to use the Petcha-Kucha format, but it's really helpful, right? Because you've just spent a bunch of time doing a bunch of brilliant work, doing a bunch of collaborative work, and you want to find a really great home for that. You want to find a really great spot for all of that work to land. And so whether it's a Petcha-Kucha style presentation or some other format, I hope it actually will reflect any other ways that you've used the human-centered design thinking process. So yeah, thanks so much, everyone. It was wonderful to see you. I know I think Home Feast is part of the CRW schedule. Adam, is that starting like in literally a minute or two? yeah, so if that's something you're involved with, like highly recommend you do it. It's like a BYOD, bring your own dinner collective, collaborative thing. So I'd highly recommend folks checking that out. It's been really incredible. Thanks again for all the engagement, everyone. And I cannot wait to see everyone IRL whenever that's possible. If there's any questions, other comments that folks might have, don't hesitate to stick around. That would be great. I'm happy to chat a little bit more if folks do have any other questions, but thanks so much for coming. And yeah, we hope you liked it. If there are questions, anything like that, by all means, if any folks that are still here have anything else they'd like to follow up on, then please let me know.
You're the host. I think you can stop the recording there, Ross. I
Oh, okay.
passed those abilities to you, so